Päivi, a Finnish artist, and this time I want to share a process that had a big impact on me in 2018. And it all started with the desire of being able to integrate more things that I love into my art. Those things were not only the techniques or skills, but also the content, the subjects that I wanted to express in my art. And I think this is the question for many: what to express, how to express. And also I think that many of us choose a word for the year. So I also chose a word for the year, but I also developed a process that enabled me to visualize what that word meant to me. And during that process I made several sketchbook pages, and these are like art journal pages because they combine words and images, and they are created not in a way that they would be brilliant complete illustrations, but more like bits and pieces that I wanted to bring into my art, and that way I wanted to get some kind of big picture. Here's one example of those sketchbook pages. And in this video I want to show you the process. I shared this process with my art community Bloom and Fly, but I also want to share it now this year openly, so that if you are thinking about picking a word for 2019 or any year after that, or if you're thinking about developing your style or exploring all kinds of subjects in your art, or if you're just looking for a moment where you can play with your art supplies and play with this kind of self-exploration. My word here is death, and I visualized it by creating three-dimensional shapes. And then in the second step, in journey, I thought about traveling restlessly in space and through time. Then the third step, the eyes. And I wanted the expressive eye to be larger here than the eye that focuses on the technical quality. And I remembered Albert Einstein's quote: "Once we accept our limits, we can go beyond them." In the fourth step, the fears, I was thinking about losing originality and innovativity and being too literal and clumsy. And then in the fifth step, which is the conclusion, and then the sixth step, the big picture, I was thinking about accepting any limits and using that to go beyond them, embracing the restlessness too. What makes me restless today, I wrote there. First, choose the word. Second, visualize the journey, the ideas, thoughts and values that your word evokes. Third, list and visualize the skills, styles and points of use that you want to practice. These are the two eyes that you use for looking at the world. Fourth, express the fears, threats, negative aspects and the vulnerability that you find in your approach. And fifth, conclusion. Discover a personal insight or a question that you want to ponder. And six, big picture. This is optional. Just slightly adjust the image so that everything comes together. Choosing the word is as simple as thinking about the word that resonates with you at the moment. It can express more about the desired direction than about the concrete result. The word can represent energy that you want to put in your work or the atmosphere that you want to achieve. The word can have a very personal message that only you know. You might instantly have a word in your mind, but if you don't, or if you want to question it, Let's go through your current creative habits and discover your word. First, familiar supplies and techniques. Think about the supplies and the techniques that you use most often. How do they make you feel? What do they enable you to do? And most importantly, what do you miss when using them? Second, creative practices. Think about the way you create. How fast do you do that? How regularly do you create? If you would have all the supplies and all the skills, what would be the word for the quality that you want to produce? Third, inspiration. Think about the themes that you usually create. Do you create portraits, abstracts, landscapes or still lifes? What inspires you in them? What does a good portrait or a good abstract mean to you? What does it show? My word is depth, and I want to make my paintings look more three-dimensional and dynamic. I also want to combine abstract and elements of reality so that they meet in a three-dimensional space. I want to create art that is expressive and impactful, I want to create art that is deep from all the possible angles. To visualize the verbal, ask questions. What color comes to your mind? What shapes or lines could you express? Is there a symbol or a physical object that connects you with it? What is the place where it takes you? If it's a journey, how are you traveling? What do you carry with you? To verbalize the visual, ask questions like, what themes were you thinking while coloring? What could be the word that summarizes your thoughts? Is there a quote that says it all? And dig deeper. What do your thoughts really mean? What do you want to embrace? Paul Klee has said, one eye sees, the other feels. Imagine that you have two different kinds of eyes. The outer eyes see the outside world, what happens logically and scientifically, how things look and what looks pleasing or ugly. The inner eyes see the world inside you, feelings, emotions, values, how the outside world has affected your inner world. Adjust the metaphor of eyes with your aspirations. Maybe you want to strengthen the connection between the outer and the inner eyes. Maybe you want to change your realistic eye to an abstract eye. Maybe you want to grow your technical skills and start seeing and expressing how the reality really looks like. Analyze your recent discoveries and ask, what kind of danger do I see there? What negative things could come along? What kind of bad person would I become? What am I afraid of? What prevents me from blooming? What makes me fall and fail? The idea of adding fears to the image is to make the goal setting more grounded. Sometimes the threats are the first things that come to your mind, and they naturally appear at the beginning of the journey. But if they don't, it's good to check that you have been realistic enough at some point. To me, connecting with fears through the visual process has been deeper than if I just write about them. At the end, connect the beginning and the end together by writing and visualizing a conclusion. Pick one of the insights that you have got at the earlier stage of this journey. Or get back to your original word and draw a conclusion from there. Or notice the change of the mindset and express that. So now you ask, what supplies should I use here? And I think that you should use the supplies that you enjoy and that are quick so that you can create one image in 1 to 2 sittings. Limit the number of your supplies so that you don't spend time wondering what supplies to use next. Get a sketchbook or an art journal so that you can browse all your insights and images easily. And make sure that the paper is big enough to fit in 1-2 hour session. Use a good pen for writing and doodling. Don't use an eraser. Show the process. The supplies I used in these sketchbook pages. First, I used Outline Drawing System pen. It's a black water-resistant pigment ink pen, and I used the tip size 0.5. Then I used Derwent art bars and a water brush. This is very similar to watercolors. Then I also used Faber-Castell gelatos and foam for smudging because I love those soft gradients and it's really easy to create those with these sticks. And I created the images in the Pink Pig horizontal A3 size sketchbook. And in the demonstration I also use golden acrylic paints and colored pencils. And I use Prismacolor, Softcore and Garan Dash Luminance colored pencils. Next you will see me creating one image. And in this video I take step 4 fierce before step 3 eyes. You totally can change the order of these 2 steps if you feel so. Sometimes the reverse order feels easier to me. Think about this process as a meditation or a prayer. You can examine the word as many times as you want. You don't even have to change the original word. You can use the process to define your general personal goals, or your goals as an artist, or your goals for bigger projects that you want to create. Fears don't have to be deep. They can be very obvious and simple, but we just haven't taken the time to solve them. If anything in the process raises negative emotions and makes your heart beat faster, there's something worth documenting for sure. Don't interfere the process by trying to create a pretty picture. At the end, you can adjust the image if you want. You can repeat some colors or shapes to get the image a bit more unified. It brings in extra satisfaction if you also can see the big picture and the atmosphere that you want to achieve, not just single steps. You can also find an opposite word for the guiding word. The opposite word complements the guiding word and can offer a solution or be a part of the solution, especially if you work through it using the process. See the insights that I was able to pull out from the word play after examining the guiding word depth. So my word was play, and first I thought about cute girls wearing wings, folk dresses and whimsical hats. In the second step, which is this journey, I thought about Japanese decorative styles and Japanese-inspired crafts and how they are simple but inspiring. In the third step, I thought about eyes that can be like buttons, and I was playing with the idea of a box with buttons and beads. And in the fourth step, which is fierce, I was thinking about living in a bubble that has no connection to the reality. And then the final step, the conclusion, I thought about how life in a bubble can be a bit magical too, and how decorative and graphic can also be used to express three-dimensional shapes, and how the play may not be a long novel, but it can still be profound, and it can be like a little poem.